right, so we showed up. I said, guys, here's the song. I sent you the song, but we did not have really any vocals worked out. So we came and we started working on some harmonies and getting some ideas. But the first thought that came to me was how much you need to rehearse, And it took us, like a couple of hours just to get to the point where we could even sing it. And so I guess my first question is, we worked out the harmonies, but Linda, you're so great at working out phrasing, and it's kind of like all the fringe things, like where you set the phrase and the groove and adding those little endings. How do you come up with that stuff?
It's really totally Holy Spirit led, to be honest. I mean, that's the perfect and most honest answer I can come up with. But a lot of times, you're this kind of the spur of the moment type guy. When you walk in and he'll just go, give me something on this. I need this arranged or whatever. Now that's a little different. That's when you got to kind of go into your head space and think about what you're listening to or what you're hearing. But quickly, just because you sent this song out a little early, I really didn't have a lot on it until the bridge part, which I absolutely love and adored what we came up with. It was great. But you got to most songs kind of always, to me, cry out to you as to what they want. But you have to listen for it, because if you override that, then you're kind of just putting, you can put notes and riffs and stuff in songs all day long. But if it doesn't have a meaning, it's kind of superfluous. So you want to do something that, has some meaning to it. And this song was very powerful, so it deserved exactly what the Lord gave us to put on it.
That's great. Somebody tell me about, I felt like you guys had such a great blend. And I think that has to do with a lot about listening and kind of molding the tone of your voice to what's going on in the room. Anybody have a thought on that?
I think this guy should say something too, because he has the most incredible voice. You can just melt into his voice.
That's true.
Yeah, I think experience and just like singing with a lot of other singers and just like you say, listening, using your ears more than just trying to do your own thing. So that especially when we're trying to sing as a group and lock in quickly, just to be able to figure out how to function as a unit. And make sure what we're doing individually is fitting into the context of the music, not only the chord structure, but what we're singing together. And that's just kind of, group singing 101.
Every time I hear that, I always think, that's a good lesson for life. Like, am I ever listening to anybody else, and am I blending into this friendships here and what's going on anyways? It's interesting how a lot of music correlates to how life works.
Also, singing with Natalie over these years has been so incredible, and blending in with her, and it's like you almost kind of already know where you're headed when you're singing with voices like this. And then with her coming up as a baby, singing under us all the time, she just kind of clicked right in. And then, this guy being Mr. Professional, we just kind of all popped in, and it worked, right, Nat? Yeah. Was that what you
It also helps when someone is a leader in the group, and anytime Linda's in the room, she's the leader.
I don't mean to be.
But, to kind of tune in and listen to who's kind of leading out, who's coming up with the ideas, the phrasing. At one point, David came up with a line, and we all kind of listened in and copied what he was doing. So there's different moments where other people lead, but anytime Linda's in the room, I am leaning so hard into her tone and her style and her phrasing. We have very different voices, yet we can come together, and if we both compromise and give in a little bit, we can blend.
And that's what
it's a beautiful thing.
And that's what happens.
And Natalie, I know you've done sessions where they literally wanted you to make your voice sound a certain way, or even another person, which is definitely serving the song or the situation. How do you do that? Or you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it helps when you know what someone wants, right? Whoever's hiring you or asking you to do something. And if that's communicated well, then to just lean into, okay, I have a foundation, I know how to sing, I've practiced, and now I can play around with my voice and adjust it in new ways in the professional world, and then in a context like this, I always know exactly what you want. You want a heart of worship with excellence in music. So I bring my ear, tune my voice, good technique, but then also a freedom in it to just worship and follow your lead.
Worship with all my heart, but in pitch.
Yeah, in tune, yeah.
Eileen, when you were singing the bridge, it was just, I was feeling God's blessing on me. And I don't know, you tell me, but it felt to me like you were kind of really going there, like, singing about how God is with us in the valley, and like, do you have any thoughts on focusing in on what you're actually singing and saying, as kind of getting your heart and brain in that space?
Totally. I feel like any song I'm singing, I'm like purposefully thinking about the lyrics, thinking how they relate to my personal life. Like, I can mean this because, like, for this song, wow, like, I've experienced this hard time in the valley, whatever. I'm thinking about that in the moment, and it's leading me into worship and into the revelation of God's faithfulness and kindness and all those things, and that's leading me into worship. So I feel like I'm always trying to think of how the lyrics relate personally to my story to lead me, like, personally into worship.
I was just thinking about how being together today and working out harmonies and singing this psalm, it's just, there's so much camaraderie and fellowship. It's just a joy. It's just one of my most favorite things. I don't know if anybody felt something that blessed you today, anything. But
I just have to say that anytime that we get the opportunity, this is a privilege to do what we get to do. So anytime you get to do this, you count it all joy, because it's such a blessing to be together and to be able to do this, knowing that somebody's whole life might be changed, because of what God has allowed us to do. So I hope I answered that right. It probably took it straight out of context. And I just wanted to say one more thing about singing, if you don't mind. There's something that my father taught us. Singing is singing together as a group. There's a great deal of respect here. Of the voices. You respect one another's voices, which is another metaphor for life, respecting others as you go through life. But as singers, I've learned that some of the greatest times I've ever had was singing with singers that had respect for their craft and the gift that God gave them, and respecting one another in their gifts. So make sure that you're doing that in your worship teams and stuff, and in your everyday normal life. Yeah.
Yeah,
just a tip.
Just to be able to enjoy the amazing gifts God gives to other people instead of compete with it. Just like, look what the Lord has done, and just enjoy it. Another thought I had, you were talking about, we were talking at lunch about how you talk to singers about how to have pitch and about listening to yourself. You want to give us a couple of not being pitchy tips?
My answer to that question is it starts by just getting over yourself and accepting that every singer sings out of tune sometimes. And there's a lot of details to it, but mainly it's about listening, learning how to listen to your voice, because your voice sounds different in your own head than it does in the acoustical space that everybody else is listening to you in. So it really helps me, and I think helps everyone, to record yourself and listen back to what you're doing so that you can hear where you might be out of tune, that you weren't aware that you were out of tune. And just learning how to alter your vowels. A lot of it when you take voice lessons, if you take voice lessons, you learn how to support properly. A lot of times the tuning issues aren't just because we can't hear it, but because we're not supporting it well enough, or we're not, the shape of our vowel, the way that we're placing the tone in our mouth isn't as good as it could be. And so once you learn how to do those things vocally, it helps your pitch, especially the energy thing. That's big. Having energy, having support really helps your pitch not sag. But yeah, I mean, I could talk about it for a long time, so I won't. But really just learning to listen more attentively and record yourself and listen back to what you're doing.
Let's just sing that bridge, just acoustically here.
Lord, when I walk deep in the valley, I will not fear, for you are with me.
You are with me.
Your rod and your staff, they comfort and guide me.
Comfort and guide me.
And I will yet dwell, Lord, in your house forever.